A prayer from the book of Psalms. Keep back your servant also from willful sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then I will be upright. I will be blameless and innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Hi, everybody. This is a community for people of the faith, and it's called Christian RPG Gamers. So, so today I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy, and specifically Final Fantasy 16. So, I was thinking about I might make a walkthrough on it on my channel. I might just talk about it a little bit too. This is definitely a game that I think is it's a really cool game, right? And I'm also trying to put some kind of like Christian perspective on this in some way, shape, or form. I don't like to force narratives and agendas, but we'll see what happens, right? Let's start this off by watching a little bit of like a trailer. Okay, so obviously fair use is a thing here. All right, let's watch this trailer for a little while. Let's try and hype and pump the video up a little bit more, and then we'll take a look from there.
The target, Shiva's dominant, and only the dominant. How do we even know the girl will be a mother? Our kind do not question orders, follow them. Sergeant, let's summon their icon. Icon? That thing's a bloody mountain.
Our foe will not relinquish their mother crystal easily. This will be a bitter fight.
You should not be out of doors. We have discussed this. Come, Joshua. Your father will be expecting us.
I am Joshua's shield. I'm sworn to protect him.
Your sword to our cause!
What does it matter? It was the Dalmex who drove back the Crusaders in the Battle of the Twin Realms, was it not?
Without the blessing of the Mother Crystal, we cannot defend our realm from the spread of the Blight.
Vipers. Do they really mean to invade us?
It's the Archduke's son.
Phoenix.
Stop this!
That's impossible. The legacy of the crystals. Has shaped our history.
So yeah, like that's. To be honest, I can never figure out my volume controls, so it might be a little bit on the quiet side. Sometimes it's either really too loud or it's just too quiet. I can never figure out how to get it right, so we'll try this and see how that sounds. Okay, so again, like, so the game Final Fantasy 16. Okay, so obviously there is a handful of things. I do got to talk about that, right? There's a handful of things, that are a little bit questionable, a little bit shady and gray that, you got to be careful with. Obviously, like most fantasy worlds, there is stuff like sorcery in it. They do have, like, there is magic and sorcery talked about, and they have their quote-unquote gods, and they do have some other, dangerous, naughty stuff in it, right? And so there is a lot of, really shady, questionable stuff, right? But okay. But I'm not going to try to just focus, like, heavily on the negative. But, there is stuff in you do got to be careful with at the same time. But I also think that there's a lot of positives you can find from fantasy at the same time. So there is things like it does have phenomenal storytelling. It's like, it's great voice acting and a great story. It has really just well-made cutscenes. There's character development. There's great characters. There's a great plot and story and setting. There's a lot of fun to be had in fantasy too, right? And it's in a world that's not like our world. I mean, it's similar to our world, but it's a little bit different too. And there is a lot of things that are really cool about it too. And I do think that most fantasy games, and to be honest, just about pretty much all stuff out there, my opinion and what I would argue is that it's basically known as neutral. It's neutral plus some moral grayness. It's not like inherently a good thing, but I don't know if I believe that stuff is necessarily evil inherently either. It's just a neutral entertainment. And you can choose to find what you want to find out of it. So there is a lot of good, and to be honest, there's also a lot of evil in it too. But but you can watch a really cool story, or you can play a fun game. You can watch a cool story, and you can experience something great, and you can choose to find whatever you want to find out of it. So I think, going forward, I think my goal is just, I'm gonna try to find more positive things. Negativity is extremely easy. There's a lot of angry people out there, and a lot of unhappy and bitter and toxicity, right? And it's gonna exist either way. And people out there, some people just want to be angry, right? But I don't need to feed that. So let's look for some more positive things in life, or at least try to be neutral and try to find some more positive stuff. So okay, let's try to find some stuff that I do like, though, right? I mean, obviously, you gotta have some discernment and use some sense in your brain too. Again, this game, in my opinion, is really good storytelling. It's it has phenomenal characters. It does have a really good plot. Now, I'm not going to go too much into spoilers here. I'm also not that far into the series either. I know a little bit about it, but not that much necessarily. So yeah, like, okay, so even the argument, like, right, even what could I even say from, like, like a Christian perspective about it, right? They do have some moral themes, and one aspect about this series, and they do talk about, like, the idea of honor. It has to do with your family, the idea of honor, like, even knights, like, giving, like, how much value does a human being really have, and is it worth sacrificing your life, or denying your happiness for the sake of the kingdom? Is your happiness worth more than the happiness of the greater good of everyone else around you? Which one's more valuable? Like, honor, or your own personal, like, excessive happiness? And this game, it does talk a lot about this kind of stuff. There's really just self-serving, ambitious, just like really just all about me, right? And you can see this in this series. And it's the same. It has a lot to do with, like, knights and, like, nobility and different kings and queens and different kind of, like, you got rogues and scoundrels trying to, they got all their own selfish interests, and then you got honorable, noble, righteous people. It's like it's a series that talks a lot about like very good versus very evil. And you got like mercenaries and stuff in between, in the middle. And I'm not going to go too deeply into like the spoilers or the plots of any of the story, but there is some layers of truth that that there is, like, you know, it's good versus evil, right? You know, it really pushes the idea of, you know, how far will you go for the people that you love and care about, or for your kingdom that you care about, or for the groups of people that you love, or your sense of honor. And it's just how far are you really willing to go, and what are you willing to believe? You know, what matters more to you? Your family, your honor, your kingdom, or lining your pockets with massive amounts of loot and excessive pleasure, and, you know, just giving into your darkest desires and massive amounts of, you know, just very deep self-serving interest and personal revenge. It's like, you know, is good better or is evil better? The series explores this kind of stuff, right? Is, you know, again, like, you know, good versus evil. This is, I think, something very deeply about this game. So yeah, and I do feel like neutral entertainment, there's a lot of net positives that you can gain from it. So it's like, you know, there's different characters, right? But like the thing is, it's not set in the real world. I mean, you know, obviously most fantasy is sort of based off of reality, but it's just like, it's a different version of reality. And it's like the thing I like about one thing I like about neutral, like more neutral fantasy content, is it doesn't necessarily always try to just push that one side is necessarily like just automatically like the correct team necessarily, and the other side's the incorrect team. You know, obviously you got like the hero, you got like the main character who's usually the hero, right? And you got the main villain or something, right? But there's all these different kingdoms and all these different groups of people, and it does explore a lot of ideas of, you know, just again, you can look at it from more of like a neutral, objective point of view, where you personally you're not really invested directly into these groups of people. You can just see two different groups, and you can see the different choices they make, the different morality. There's just a lot of stuff you can learn from it, and, you know, great storytelling, right? And it's, again, you don't have any sort of like direct personal interest at the same time. It's two different kingdoms clashing against each other, and both sides usually think they both think that they're right. And truth be told, both sides, more often than not, tend to be wrong. Like, you know, in holiness, God is perfect, but when it comes to human beings, we're all sinners and flawed. And you can see this in this kind of series. Like, you know, I'm not going to go into any kind of real spoilers here, but there's like two major factions and groups. It's usually, you know, everybody's trying to buy, what do you call it? They're vying for the power. They want that throne, right? This is what a lot of fantasy, a lot of medieval fantasy is usually about. They want the throne for themselves. Usually, an individual they want their family, or they want their name, or they want their resources on that throne, and they want the control over the kingdom or the group. And they kind of go back and forth trying to, you know, they're fighting for the throne, right? They want to sit in that seat. They want that power. Usually there's like the villain will go to the absolute extreme lengths because they are power hungry, driven for intense power. Usually they commit revenge, or it's, you know, a betrayal. And you can see a lot of this. You can see a lot of like the devil in the villains. And you got, like, you know, the hero. The hero usually is selfless. You know, the hero is usually willing to give up their own life to, you know, just to save everybody else, or to save their family or their friends, right? They're usually selfless. You know, believe in self-sacrifice. You know, in holiness, they resemble Christ. You know, usually most heroes are Christ-like, and usually most villains are like the devil. Now, you could argue that there is some kind of, you know, the people who make these series, they have some level of influence over it, but usually more often than not, the main character of most of these types of RPG games tends to be like a Christ-like character, and most villains of these types of series tend to be like the devil. So, and that's one of the things about, like, you know, good versus evil, right? The good guys are usually tend to be really, really good, and the bad guys tend to be like really, really bad. And again, that's one of the things. That's something I do like about fantasy, because they resemble this, like even like the Lord of the Rings, right? The Lord of the Rings is like, it's very, very good versus very, very evil, and you got the heroes and the villains. I do think this is probably one of the main themes about this game that I see. Though there is a lot of moral grayness in between, but there is some layers of truth to this about this too. So yeah, that's one thing I would say about this game. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not sure I would say that's the Christian message into it or not. I mean, it's obviously, I think it's like a 20+ hour long story. Now, I was thinking about making a walkthrough on my channel of this game. Obviously, I'm not like expecting massive amounts of views or anything in it. I know the game's it's a very linear driven story. I was trying to think about how the channel could use this to benefit others. I mean, I know I could do what I used to do in the past, where I put like a Bible verse and like put some like I could put a little discernment message in the beginning with like a full Bible verse, saying there's like the Christian walkthrough of it. I could give some of my thoughts, put that at the beginning, and maybe put something at the end. I just got a question, just how much commentary I really want to write on it. I know, I mean, here's one of my other thoughts about it, right? So if I do the walkthrough of it, I feel like if I don't write any commentary on it at all, I mean, there's already like, there's probably like 1,000 other walkthroughs online, right? So it's like, what really distinguishes my video series from someone else's? Honestly speaking, there isn't much. I also don't, there's also nothing wrong with that either. But I feel like I should at least put some commentary on it. I just have to think about how I want to do it. I'll probably focus on the main story. I might just put some written commentary periodically through it. I'll have to think about how I want to do it, right? I can always just try to put some message on it. And it's okay. At the end of the day, I don't really expect it to get like it's not going to pop off going super heavily. But in holiness, I seek to glorify God with whatever I create. I glorify God with whatever I create, right? I point it to Him, and it can benefit the community. It can be used as a form of ministry. So I might put some kind of commentary on it. I'll have to think about it, right? So I guess what I probably would argue is my number one thing that I like about this series is that it's a really great storytelling. It's a phenomenal story. It's it's well made. It's well acted. It's just a great it's really great at the same time. Although there can be some things that a person might disagree with. You can try to just overlook. You can try to just overlook some of the things you disagree with. Level of disassociation from what you enjoy, right? You can just enjoy content because it's cool content. You don't have to always. It's like you can disagree with like magic and stuff, but still think it's cool. It's a cool game and it's a cool story, right? It's made out of greatness. And I think you can glorify God with a great story. In even making content about it, right? You can I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what the channel's goal, right? In holiness, to glorify God. Whatever content is made on the on YouTube or whatever the other platforms are, in holiness, glory be to God. So that's definitely something I like about it. That's probably one of my favorite things about it, right? It just has a really, really well-made story. Great characters, great plot, just really well made. I think that's what I like the most about it. That's like my favorite thing about it, right? And you get to go on this journey, and you get to see the main character, his growths and his his downfalls, and just going on an awesome adventure, right? All right, well, thanks for watching. God is good.